Anyone that tells you money is not important, here's a fact. They don't fucking have any. In order for them to survive, sustain, and not just survive, but thrive, they need a lot of money.
Don't be afraid to be honest with yourself. Who cares if you get emotional? That's your soul. Those are your values. That's your inner being telling you you need to make a change. You need to make a jump. You at least need to be honest with yourself.
No wonder people grow up being afraid of rejection. I think that's the number one reason why people don't get into sales. Not commission, not because of like the process of what they do. They're scared of the rejection and how other people are gonna judge them.
Look for the bigger trees. You climbed as high as you can on the one you're on. You're gonna wait for that tree to grow on its own. It may take 100 years. Your growth can happen much more quickly. Find the bigger tree that you can climb to the top and talk to the people on that tree and say, how can I help? What can I do? What can I learn? What's up, fam? Welcome to another episode of Stronger, Smarter, Richer. My name is Joe Saman. My guest today is Ali Zamany. What's up, Ali?
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me on.
You got it, dude. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good right now. Kind of hot. I'm in my garage. I'm fired up, and I'm good, man. I'm ready to go.
It's okay, man. Your sweat looks good on camera. Listen, guys, for those of you who don't know Ali Zamany, which is kind of hard right now because he's loud, obnoxious, controversial, calls people out in public, calls people out on his stories, no holds barred, and is also one of the most caring, inspiring, and loving people I've ever met so far. I love the fire that he brings every single day. I don't know how you do everything that you do, but we're about to find out today. What you guys also need to know about Ali is from a very young age, he was a veteran businessman, all self-started for the most part. He's the CEO of American Smart Home. He's the CEO of Smart Home Pro. And he just took on and added another line of business to his already existing portfolio that he is kicking ass in right now. We'll get to know him a little bit right now. If you already know him, you're gonna love the questions that I ask because I'm gonna make him as uncomfortable as I possibly can. I hope you sweat bricks in that fiery garage that you're in with your flashy Lambo in the background, bro.
Hey, you should bring a car into your house as well, too. That'd be great, actually.
I got a car, bro. We're gonna race.
Where's your car?
Mine is the same size as yours too, but mine's red.
Oh, it is? Okay.
You know I've always
Looking
been a
forward
Ferrari fan, dude.
Yeah,
We're
I'm
gonna
sorry to hear
race.
that. Listen, if you love Ferrari, probably the same reason why you have an Android instead of an iPhone, but that's okay.
I have both. So if you want me to bring mine over, you just let me know. We can go at this. Okay? Drop top.
I love it.
We can go at this. I got a big question for you. It says on your license plate, D to D King. You are one of the masters. You have a track record in Canada. You did extremely well. You came here within 6 months. You built another massive size business. And watching you is a little bit frustrating to me because it makes me go home and think about my life. All right. But the D to D King, I'm noticing some changes. I'm noticing some rumors. I'm noticing you pivot a little bit. Are you no longer the D to D King? Are you no longer known for that? Are you having an identity crisis? Is this a midlife thing? Are your testosterone levels getting low? I just want to know what's going on with that.
I've just changed the letter. I've changed the D to Z during the quarantine. So I'm still the D to D King, but during the lockdown, during the pandemic, I'm the Z to Z King, Zoom to Zoom King. I've now learned how to build a digital business, a virtual avenue of revenue, and we are in the midst of the new economy, as you so eloquently say, but the new economy, what's being forced upon us is the virtualization of business. So I just couldn't live with myself if I spent these last 8 to 10 weeks not mastering a new skill, not building a new avenue of revenue and virtual of that. So I'm still the D to D King, but I'm apparently the Z to Z King now too.
You're the Z to Z King now. Zoom to Zoom King. So when this is over, are you no longer the Z to Z? Are you D to D? Are you now W to W? Like, what's going on?
So I've realized my strength is I'm a racehorse. I have the ability, this uncanny ability to put the blinders on, and I have no idea how fast I'm going or how far I'm going, and I just go. And I've been focused on the letter D. But you know what? There's 26 letters in the alphabet. So what I'm doing now is I'm not being so narrow-minded, even though it's a strength of having that tunnel vision, and I'm really being open-minded, and I'm also pivoting, and I'm adapting. Charles Darwin, one of my top 10 favorite quotes is this: "It is not the most intelligent of species nor the strongest of species that survive, but it's the people that are the most adaptive to change." So, it's my strong suit and my weak suit, my stubbornness. But what this quarantine has taught me is the ability to pivot and adapt and be more open-minded, if you will.
It's really interesting that you say that, because now that I look back at your track record, it wasn't really industry driven. Every single time you made a massive leap in your success, it was actually right after a major blow.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? So really it's so funny that you just mentioned, Darwin and the whole adaptation thing. Not only are we the most adaptive creatures, but now that since I've gotten to know you so well over the past year, everything that you've created that was amazing or something to be proud of came right. I'm not sure if people know, every single story. We won't do it right now, but everything that you created that was massive was right after or during you almost getting taken down by something either in the economy or in your industry. Right. That's kind of how it played out, right?
Yeah, if I just think about the last 3 experiences, the last one I had, I took a $5 million hit in my financing company, and literally months later, we started having record weeks. The recent one, the whole world shut down with the global pandemic, and we're on lockdown. I had to get creative very quick. I think back to 3.5 years ago, I got fired from a 13-year career with a publicly traded company after earning 8 figures and generating 10 figures, and literally got to a very dismal, uncomfortable point. So yeah, a lot of my adversity, and it sounds cliche to say it, but I can say it because I've lived it. Adversity causes some people to break and some people to break through and break records, and that's what it's done with me. So I thrive.
Is that an unfair advantage? Is this going to say that for the people who feel that they don't respond that way to disaster, does it give them is it unfair to them? Or are you saying you have to find that it's not like not necessarily a natural trait? You have to find it and use it. I mean, what's the deal there? What if I'm not an aggressive person?
I honestly think it's a chemical imbalance that I have, because when things are going well and the economy's doing well and everything is consistent, people are happy, I feel uneasy. I get bored when things are very mundane and very consistent. I'm a builder by nature, and when things are disastrous, like put me in any recession, depression, pandemic, a failing situation, that's when I truly come to life. And it's an unfair advantage. It's unfair to me when the economy's doing well, because I get bored and everybody else is excited. So that's the unfair advantage that they have. But when shit goes wrong, that's when Ali really comes out. Yeah.
2 things I really agree with. First of all, your chemical imbalance, totally agree. Can't argue with you on that. Second of all, you and I were having a conversation last summer about how in this, whenever the economy's perfect, I think I mentioned it reminds me of 2005. Everybody's making money, buying homes, buying cars and living it up and taking vacations every 3 months. And I'm like, we are in the danger zone right now. I'm like, something's around the corner. I don't know what it is. And it's almost as if you have an appetite for it, which leads me to another question. Because that's the sunny side of the equation, is how you take control and yada yada. However, when everything went down, I'm not just talking about the COVID situation. Okay, we have similar, not proportionate, but similar situations happen every 9 to 12 years. Okay, so when you woke up one morning and you realized that you have 4 children at home, a wife, a family, 2 companies, mouths to feed, sales teams to support, what was your initial reaction when you saw the shit go down?
My initial reaction is my ego started talking to me, and I was embarrassed. I was intimidated. I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a pivot. And ego's not a bad thing. By the way, the acronym of ego stands for everyone's got one, including me and you. Some people just, they're not so abrupt about it. But my ego did the initial talking to me. And it was saying, you can't pivot from door to door. You've spent almost 2 decades, about 18 years now, building business. You finally got to where you want to get to. And, being 36, having gone nonstop, because most people have 2 modes, on and off. I have 1 mode, turbo. And that's not, it's funny, but it's actually true. And when I've been going at an accelerated rate for 17 years, one would think that over an extended period of time, that eventually I don't have to work the 8 to 10 hours, and eventually I can build something that's sustainable, and eventually I can build something on my own that I'm proud of. And I spent 14 years on somebody else's path, building their dream, 3 years of building my own dream, and I reached the pinnacle of where I wanted to be, and that just abruptly stopped. So for the first week, I didn't make any move. I was just in denial. I'm like, no, the pandemic is not happening. My businesses are not going to be affected. I'm not going to be that guy that pivots. I'm the door-to-door king.
Dude, I think the most impressive thing you mentioned right there is you spent over a decade in very related industries. And what I see is people get so romantic about what they've done. It's like, I put it to you like this, it seems like anything people invest time and effort into, they become attached to.
It's called sunken investment fallacy. It happens with relationships and businesses. Exactly. Sunken investment fallacy because of the investment of sweat equity. You know you should stop, but you don't, because you don't know any better at that time. Or
things have been good and you haven't had to stop.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're in the state of, oh my God, it's doomsday. Things are never going to be the same, when your mindset instead should be what?
It should be pivoting. Let me tell you something. I'm in door to door, okay? The quarantine and lockdown is a catch-22, a double-edged sword. Let me explain why. The positive of the lockdown is it is a door knocker's dream. If you are in direct sales and marketing, everybody's home. But it's also a nightmare because you're not allowed out and nobody's opening up their doors. So my entire model, we're not telesales, we're not online or digital sales. I haven't mastered those arenas. I know I'm self-aware enough to know what I'm good at. And what I'm good at is the archaic model of door-to-door, face-to-face guerrilla marketing. And that's what I leveraged on. That's what I banked on. I went all in on guerrilla marketing. And then when that abruptly stops out of the blue, you're like you're in denial. You're like, this can't be happening. Wait a minute. Then the talk track changes to, this can't be happening, to, I think this is happening. Oh my God, it is happening. Then what do I do and how do I kind of overcome it? So I've made 2 major professional commitments in my life. One lasted 14 years and one lasted 4 years. My 20s, I lived out of a suitcase. I don't remember my 20s. I think I made a few kids and made a few million. I don't remember it, okay? And I built my life around the business. Then when I got my 30s, I said, I want to remember part of my 30s because I don't remember my 20s. It's just like this foggy, hazy memory of a decade. I'm going to build the business around my life. I'm going to choose life by design. In fact, if you want to know the top 3 DMs I get from people that I know and people that don't know, actually people that don't know me, number 1 DM is, can you mentor me? Number 2 DM, what book do you recommend? I don't fucking know, go to Google. And number 3, the comment, not question, is, do you even work? I'm telling you, I get dozens of messages a month. Do you work? Because if you follow me on IG, you see nothing other than my kids, my backyard, my family, my car, going to the gym. You actually don't see me work. But I understood how to take what I did in my 20s and become more efficient with my time.
Dude, so over the past month or so, I feel like it's been the opposite. I feel like it's for the first time ever in your life, people are now actually seeing your work, because it's not on the streets. It's been, Z to Z, as you said. I think I messaged you the other day. I'm like, dude, I have even more admiration for you now, because for the first time, people are seeing that you are, if you want to use the word hustling, way more hours than anybody else. It's just, you clip off a little bit of time for your family and for other things that are important to you, and you show that. And because you carry such a bubbly, funny, aggressive, playful personality during that time. It makes it look like life is so easy for you.
It's not easy, by the way. I'll tell you two things. This was my third major professional commitment. So I'm guarded when I make commitments. I am a hard sale because I know once I'm sold and once I commit that I'm never going to go back on that commitment. So I'm not going to mention names. Even when I got on the preliminary call with with my mentor, who's almost a billionaire, and we had a conversation, I had to go back. Literally, it took me 7 days to really kind of digest the opportunity. And am I prepared? I know I'm disciplined. I know I'm capable, but do I have the desire level to make that commitment? And it took me 7 days to make a decision.
Let me just put it out there. Word for word, from my memory. Don't quote me on this, and I won't mention any names because we love this guy, right? One of your mentors now.
Yeah.
But I think this particular individual, whose first name starts with E and last name starts with M, somehow indirectly questioned your ability or was a little bit shunned by how aggressive you were at first. And I think when you called me, you were just ranting, bro. And you were like,
what it is,
does this motherfucker know who I am? Does he know how I do stuff? Man, I'm the fucking Rhino. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't know if this thing is gonna blow and there's gonna be a warrant for your arrest, or if you're gonna turn right back around and set some fucking world records in this business. And I think we know what ended up happening.
The challenge with me is I come off borderline abrasive to people that don't know me.
Exactly.
Because people are confused. Like, what kind of breed is that? Like, it's someone that just wants to go 1,000,000 miles a minute, a one-way freight train, doesn't really complain, wants a whole lot of my time and access, and very, very stubborn. And when I come in, which has been my Achilles heel, it's benefited me a lot of times and it's worked against me. It's very challenging, and not just for him, for anybody that I've known in business. I've had previous mentors that have been 7, 8, 9, and 10-figure net worth, and the relationships always start out the same way. Because if I do the proverbial charge as a rhino, somebody's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is too much.
Defense mechanism.
They're like, calm down. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there with my horns, just trying to go in. And I think that's the part that throws people off.
This is a major lesson, especially for me. But I'm not sure if you caught it, but several weeks ago, I mentioned that I wanted to apologize to, my, audience right now, that I've been getting softer. And it's because I keep noticing these incidents where people either get intimidated or they withdraw from wanting to do business because of how overpowering we can be. And that was a huge mistake. And you've proved that that was a mistake, because I think the determining factor with you is this. If you're that aggressive person that you are, 100 miles per hour, jump on the ship or get out of the way, and you have bad intentions, you will burn bridges. If you continue to be that same person and then people eventually see what's in your heart, then you gain the most loyal friends.
That's the problem. People don't have consistency and congruency in their character. When people see me at first sight, they're like, whoa, this guy is too much. He's too loud. He dresses loud. He speaks loud. It's colorful language. It's too much. But then after a period of time, they kind of become numb to it and then accept it. They're like, that's who he is. So it's consistency and character. Because there's a lot of people I've worked with, that they don't have consistency in character. They're fired up, you ask them like, how you doing? Oh, is that any better? I'd be your twin, or I'm excited. And like behind closed doors, they're like a different person. And you've seen it too. I'm the same in front of my family, away from the family. I'm the same in front of my wife, away from the wife. I'm the same in business, away from business. The only thing that changes is my language. I might not be saying fucking motherfucker in front of the kids that much, but aside from the colorful language, I'm literally the exact same person. So I have consistency and character will always prevail.
Would you say that maybe people keep switching character because they're afraid of judgment in different groups, so they keep changing who they are just to fit in, depending on where they are?
100%. And there's a lot of social pressure, especially with social media. You want to know the number? I'm not a doctor, but if I was to take a guess, the number one contributor to mental health these days is social media. It has the internet has a way of making you feel like you're behind. The internet has a way of making you feel like you're not accepted and you're not good enough. And listen, opinion is the lowest form of knowledge. Empathy, on the other hand, inversely, is the highest form of knowledge because it requires you to suspend your ego and live in somebody else's world and think from their perspective, which most people don't. Actually, the book I'm writing now, chapter 15, I coined it becoming unfuckwithable. Does that mean that other people's opinions don't hurt me? Of course not. I'm a human. To the contrary, I'm not a real life rhino, okay? Figuratively, I am, but physically, I'm not. And animals have feelings too. I have feelings. I get hurt. But what I've learned is this, is that if you do good, you will get judged. If you do bad, you will get judged. If you don't make money, right, and you're poor, it's because you're lazy and you're not motivated. If you make money, it's because you're greedy and you're a snake oil salesman. I have a dog, that means I'm a dog lover and I hate cats. If I have a cat, that means I'm a cat lover and I hate dogs. Nothing you do will please people. It's like that old meme, you want to please everybody, go sell ice cream. So I now have learned, okay, I'll end up with this quote that you heard. In my 20s, I cared about what people thought about me. In my 30s, I stopped caring about what people thought about me. And I might be getting to my 40s pretty soon in a few years, but now I'm starting to realize in my 40s, getting close to my 40s, nobody was thinking about me in the first place. It's the reality. We give so much credit to other people's thoughts.
And you can't even sell it.
As you think you are.
You can't even sell ice cream and make everybody happy now because of the vegans. With that being said, that whole idea of fitting in and being adaptive and not, staying true to your character or your values, maybe that's what we're really saying. There's a lot of people questioning their career path right now. I have family members that have been in the same career path for 14, 15, 16 years, and they've been let go. Do you feel that finally, possibly, although it's already been happening, that the economy is proving that one of the most respectable careers you can be in is sales?
Yes. Everybody, I just want to throw this out there. You can deny sales, get over yourself. Get over yourself. If you don't like to sell, you sell in every profession. You're a chiropractor, you're selling people on why they should come to your clinic. You're a dentist, you own a restaurant, you have any kind of business, you are selling customers with that foot traffic coming through your door or going on your website. This dates back to decades and centuries ago. Think about George Washington. He's probably one of the best salespeople I've ever met. He had to go to an entire nation and say, hey, listen here, we're gonna go to war against one of the biggest armies in the world. If we win, I can't pay you. And if you die, or if you lose rather, you're probably gonna die and lose your life. Let's go. Doesn't matter where you are, who you are, or what your thoughts are, you're selling. So if you don't know how to sell and you're not accepting being in sales, then you've already lost. Now, by the way, further to that is 90% of people don't like to sell. 10% of people have accepted the profession of sales, no matter what they're in, because everything is a form of sales. But the problem is 90% of that 10%, which is about 9%, still accept selling, but don't know how to close. Because there's a difference between selling and closing. So really it's the top 1% elite that have the ability to accept selling and more importantly can make the transition from selling to closing. And that's why 1% of the population earns and generates and controls 95% of the wealth, because they are all in sales. So if you don't like sales, get over yourself.
For the people who have never been in sales before, and you and I have both seen people who've never been in sales before kill it. Do you think the biggest fear of getting in sales is the false perception that you're going to have to be a person who pressures people?
No, I think it's rejection. Number one, hands down, it's rejection.
Rejection.
People are scared. People grow up with the two-letter word no, and it's such a negative word. Think about it. Little baby Joe is 4 years old or 2 years old, right? He's running around the house. and the stove is on, mom's cooking some dinner, and baby Joe goes to touch the stove. And mommy slaps baby Joe's hand and says, I said no, Joe. And Joe doesn't have any comprehension of what happened. He hears that word no, which is repeated multiple times in his life. We're talking about not just every year, we're talking about every month, every week, every day, sometimes every hour.
Yeah.
So no wonder people grow up being afraid of rejection. I think that's the number one reason why people don't get into sales. Not commission, not because of like the process of what they do. They're scared of the rejection and how other people are going to judge them.
You're right.
Oh,
even as a sales experts, I still have a little bit of that fear in me, but through consistency, I think it wears off. And, I think our mothers were more likely to be like, you want to touch it? Go ahead and touch it. You want to touch it? Touch it. And just from her expression, we're like, maybe I shouldn't touch it. Right?
That's right.
Good stuff, dude. So for sure, I think there are people who are not entrepreneurs. There are people who are not in a position where they have to sell at all in any way, shape, or form, that can have a beautiful and inspiring, motivating career in sales, because sales, which is what you pride yourself with, and you've helped dozens and dozens and dozens of families provide for themselves through this, is really just the befriending of other good people, getting to know them and helping to make important decisions in their life.
And one thing to add some color, I think whether you're in sales or not, you need to reinforce this thought in your head that sales is a process that you do for someone and not to someone. And if you change that narrative, which might be a false narrative in your mind, that you're selling for someone, not to someone, then you're going to be a lot more quick to adopt it, accept it, and apply it.
Dude, I love that. You're providing for people. I love that concept. Now, you and I could go back and forth on the sales topic all day long, and some people will watch this who don't care about it, and they're like, easy for you guys to say, you're good at it. But again, I just want to remind you that Ali has trained hundreds of people, not a handful, not a little mom and pop shop. I mean, hundreds of people across two countries that didn't know jack shit about selling, and taught them, the process. And then because, in those environments, you're forced to be around other people who are going in that direction and learning and inspiring each other. It actually has a very huge impact on your life. That's why I had a problem. You might have noticed this. If I'm out in the field trying to get testimonials from people, they often end up talking about their life instead of the money.
That's right.
Because of the changes that it's given them more authority in their family, or more confidence in their relationship, or the ability to help their parents, or whatever the case may be. And it's not necessarily about the product. It's about the community that they're exposing themselves to when they're when they've made that decision. That ends up inspiring a lot of this growth. So when I hear, people who don't want to go into sales, sometimes it's a little bit tricky for me, because, I feel like you and I would tell them, but I see you, you would be so good at it. No, it's not for me. It's not for me. I'm like, but I just heard you have a conversation with that person over there. You're really good with people. No, it's not for me. And I'm like, well, there's another fucking wasted millionaire.
Yeah, right.
You're like, the
way I've become good at sales is repetition is the mother of all learning, skill, and comprehension. I knocked on average 200 doors a day for a decade. That's about 750,000 people that I went to their doorsteps. In addition, I've actually trained over 10,000 people during my career. So I've worked with 10,000 sales reps, both directly and indirectly. I mentored them. I've dealt with 750,000 customers in my first decade alone. So when you're dealing with tens and hundreds of thousands of people, I don't know, maybe I'm over 1 million now. It's all speculative anyways. But when you've dealt with hundreds of thousands of people, both from a client and sales perspective, then you learn the knack of dealing with people. You learn the psychology of selling. You learn the power of persuasion. And then to your point, you also learn about other people and things they may not know of themselves. And that's the hardest. Let me tell you, what sales leaders have an innate ability to do is to see somebody who's over here, but see them in a higher light. So to see somebody and say, hey, you might be here, but I see you over here, and kind of raise their belief level and their identity and worth of themselves. But the hardest part, the caveat to that, is number one rule in leadership and management is you cannot want something for someone more than they want it themselves. And every time I've wanted something more than someone's wanted it, it's never worked out well. So it's like, I see you here, your identity's here, but I see your identity there. I'd like to take you there if you allow me, but then they don't really see it. Then I try to drag them, and it's short-lived anyway. So the biggest reason that people don't make it is themselves and their psyche, their mind. They're not willing to increase their expectations and worth and identity and beliefs that they have of who they are and where they should be.
Yeah, unfortunately, most of us, have to go through something pretty traumatic before we'll consider something like that. And that would mean that you would have to catch somebody in the perfect moment, and so forth. But I know, I've shared this with people. I think you have your own way of saying it. As I said, listen, you keep saying you want to be here. I'm like, you're not going to be able to do it on your own necessarily. I'm going to have to force you to do it. And it's going to be really weird, and it's going to be really uncomfortable, and you're going to it's going to be annoying. But
Joe, let me ask you a question. Does that change over time? Because look at me. I'm going to say this respectfully, but if it wasn't for the coronavirus, would I have pivoted? Probably not. And if I did pivot, would I be afforded the bandwidth of time to take it this serious? So I'm a seasoned businessman, entrepreneur, and I had to wait for something very abrupt and destructive and a global pandemic for me to be able to pivot. So that stubbornness of waiting for adversity and pain to make a change, I don't know, it might happen.
Well, we're not saying that everybody, that we all don't experience it. I think the difference is to experience it and continue down the same path anyway.
That's right. There you go. That's right.
Is your ability to recognize it as an opportunity to grow, or like the 98th percentile, a reason to blame the world.
Like right now, if you have a job and you're no longer working, whether you're unemployed or self-unemployed, or you're not doing what you did before, like as an example, sales is the number one and highest paid profession in the world for the past 2 decades. And we are living in a digital era, okay? Nobody cares about your opinions. Let me tell you the reality. We are going to be forced into the virtualization of the world. And if you have not built a digital, virtual, and even remote avenue of revenue, you are gonna be left behind in the new economy. So as an example, and I'm not doing this, you're doing this, but if somebody is not open to digital sales in the digital era during a global pandemic, when are you going to be open? Because if you're not looking to pivot now, when are you going to pivot?
Right.
Probably never.
And I think even people who will watch this, hopefully it'll grow over time, this new show. But even people who will watch this, and I'm telling you guys, the ones who are watching this, stop listening to this as entertainment. This is the sign. It's like God's not going to text you and be like, yo, I sent you that video. Did you get it?
Yeah, that's right.
Pay attention. This might be the sign. And all we're saying is maybe today you should be more honest with yourself. Maybe today you should consider the concept that you've done well, you're a good person, or maybe you have a lot of things to work on like Ali and I. But this is a sign that you're not quite have made it to anywhere near the level that you've been designed for, of what you're capable of. And because of all these previous experiences and beliefs that Ali was talking about, you don't think about what you're capable of. And that's why sometimes as mentors, we have to tell people, I can see your future, you can't.
That's right. Let me tell you something. A lot of people ask me, what's the key to success? And some people say, well, there's not one key, there's multiple keys. And I learned this from Brad Lee. There's not a key or keys to success. It's a combination, okay? And if you want to know what I pride and what I hold in the utmost priority if you're looking for one characteristic, okay, that can really propel you, I'm talking about accelerate you, propel you exponentially and expeditiously and explosively to growth. There's one characteristic. It's not discipline or being motivated or being driven, which are all great things. Here's the number one quality, which is very underrated. Being self-aware. If you have the ability to be self-aware, which is what Joe was talking about, and have those honest conversations with yourself. Listen, I'll lie to my friends, you lie to your friends, and let's lie to each other. Don't lie to yourself. If you have the ability to be self-aware, to identify who you are and where you are. And by the way, if you have an ego like I did, and I still do, I wasn't willing to make a pivot. But guess what? A fucking global pandemic happened, and I'm like, man, if I was ever gonna build the courage to pivot from door to door, this is certainly the best excuse that I've seen. My business got shut down. I don't have to feel embarrassed anymore. I can now rightfully so make that transition. So when somebody asks me, what happened to the door-to-door king? I can make a joke with Joe. Well, I'm the Z-to-Z king. What happened to door-to-door? Coronavirus? I can say one word. I don't have to go into a detailed explanation. What happened to door-to-door? Coronavirus happened to door-to-door. Now
people are looking for a reason to say, aha, you're not who you said you are.
That's right.
And they fail to see the real picture.
That's right. And now I have a reason. So anytime somebody asks, hey, how's your financing going? Your financing company? Coronavirus. How's your door-to-door company going? Coronavirus. Coronavirus. It's a great excuse.
You know what it is? It's fishing. It's fishing for justification on why they're not being aggressive, why they're not leveling it up. Look, I've had, I should be way further ahead of the game than where I'm at right now, especially with my experience level and self-awareness. And consistently, I failed to take action. But I'm aware of it, like Ali said. I'm aware of it. And I know when I need to have that stop being a little bitch conversation with myself. And if that helps me to take another step or another 2 or 3 steps, so be it, before I screw up again. But at least I'm aware of it. So what Ali is saying is the highest form of love that you can have for yourself is self-honesty, self-respect. With that being said, let's talk about that self-respect and, sort of time for change, let's call it time for growth. Why did you choose to add on, the types of the industry and the type of, and feel so passionate about building the freaking army that you're building right now?
Okay, so if I'm gonna speak selfishly, now there's always a funnel is very large and then it kind of narrows down. For me, the funnel is always upside down when I look at an opportunity. And the first thing I look at the funnel is, does this make sense for the end user? And if it doesn't, I don't even entertain the opportunity. So obviously with financial services, financial education, financial literacy, empowering the average American to save and protect and grow their wealth, it's something I can rally behind. So that was the first thing that I looked at. Does this make sense? Am I fucking people over by making money and building a career? And I looked at this very narrow hole and I said it makes sense. Now the funnel opened up. Now I'm not thinking selflessly, I'm thinking selfishly. There's 3 things I looked at this opportunity that allowed me and empowered me to make a decision. Number 1, probably the original thing I looked at, proximity. Proximity is power. I'll give you an analogy. I'm a money tree. I'm feeling myself. I know how to make money. I know how to teach people how to make money. I'm a money tree. Go on Google and put in money tree under images. And you'll see that money trees are very powerful, very mighty, very small. So I'm like a money tree that was confined to a shitty dark green plastic pot. And that was my soil, my landscape I lived in. And I was confined, furthermore, to a house with floors and ceilings and walls and windows. And I may be that elevated plant. I may be the biggest plant and the highest elevated plant in the house. And I'm getting my nutrients like the sun and the water, and I'm feeling good. And then I look out the window in the distance, and I see an 80-foot bamboo tree. And I'm like, who and what the fuck is that? And that bamboo tree's name was Ed Milet. And I'm like, I thought I was doing well. How do I get there? And this analogy is figurative, but it's very, to me, it's like I cracked the shitty plastic pot I grew up in my whole life. I've now gone outside of confinement. I'm planted right next to the bamboo tree, shoulder to shoulder, deep and preach for a second. I'm no longer looking out, but I'm looking up. There's a difference of looking out versus looking up. And now I'm in a new environment where I'm stretching, not just financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, maritally, relationally, physically, educationally, every aspect of my life. So number one is proximity. Number two, scalability, okay? I, like you, feel like I have a lot more to provide to the world. And it's frustrating when I'm confined to one neighborhood or one city or one company or one state. It's very small. I feel like I can have more of a global impact versus local. So the scalability, which is two parts, the scalability in order to grow in an industry and to be successful in this industry. If I'm looking at my mentor, he had 30,000 people. At my high school, I had 500. So would I rather, and by the way, it's the same amount of work to manage 500 or 30,000 or 3 million people. Why would I not want to have a bigger impact? And then the second part is the virtualization. The fact that I built a brand new industry as my 2 8-figure businesses are plummeting during a quarantine in my garage like Ty Lopez through fucking Zoom, that was huge to me. And then number 3, and I'll end off with this, is I look at legacy. And I want my kids to remember me, okay? And when their kids talk about their father, tell me about your father. They'll probably say, first and foremost, he was crazy, very energetic, you know, very boisterous, very loud, good energy. Number 2, good father, good role model, taught us. Number 3, just a good human being, okay? So I want to be remembered that way, but let me tell you how you remembered forever when leaving a legacy, and not just that impression with them, but I want to leave them a tool and a resource and an instrument and a vehicle that's underrated by most. That is money, M-O-N-E-Y. Because anyone that tells you money is not important, here's a fact. They don't fucking have any. And in order for them to survive in the new economy, in order for them to survive, sustain, and not just survive, but thrive, they need a lot of money. And this platform gives you the ability, after 5 years, to own a sellable asset, which is residual cash flow. I can sell it for an exit, or I can will or deed it to a beneficiary of my choice, which is my 4 kids. So if you want to know something personal, my goal in this business is I'm looking to build $100 million a year residual stream. Divide 100 million by 4. What I'm gonna leave my kids is $25 million a year for life. So my exit is not a wire and I cash out. My mic drop is dying. When I die, it's gonna be all willed over to my kids, and they're gonna have 8 figures, multiple 8 figures a year each for the rest of their life. That was kind of the 3 decisions of why I did what I did.
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. I mean, it's not complicated at all, but you, in the big picture, what I'm really trying to say is you just simplified it for me right there. Is choose the right vehicle. So it was part you going, hey, there are certain things I can't control right now. You looking out and saying, you know, what is an emerging industry? What is the right boat to be in right now? Not all boats are going to float right now. I don't care how popular they were 6 months ago. You have to be ready to pivot. I also hear you saying, be consistent in your character. If you thrive in a certain character, if you thrive being a certain way or loving a certain thing, you want to go out and you want to sing in front of your audience, your customers, whatever your energy is. If you prefer to be introvert and more intimate and more calm and more be that person, but don't limit that person. I hear you saying, look for the bigger trees. You climbed as high as you can on the one you're on. You're going to wait for that tree to grow on its own. It may take 100 years. Your growth can happen much more quickly. Find the bigger tree that you can climb to the top and talk to the people on that tree and say, how can I help? What can I do? What can I learn? I hear you saying, don't be afraid to be honest with yourself. Who cares if you get emotional? I get emotional from time to time. I've seen you get emotional from time to time. That's your soul. Those are your values. That's your inner being telling you, you need to make a change. You need to make a jump. You at least need to be honest with yourself. I hear you saying it's time to start thinking about where this new economy is going. Start thinking about the future. You don't all need to be multimillionaires. Your goal doesn't need to be 100 million. But if you're questioning right now how you're going to make it through the year and what's going to happen if this happens again, what if this lasts longer, then it means you might be on the wrong tree. You might be on the wrong tree because other people aren't asking that question. And they're not necessarily more gifted than you. Bishop Jake said something one time. He said, you can't see how gifted you are. You can only hear what other people say about you. And that hit home because it explains a lot of the resistance I got from caring people around me who I love and adore, but could not see my future because they didn't believe it for themselves. And so I became the opinion of other people instead of who I'm supposed to fucking be. And so if there's anybody out there that's feeling that right now and wants to reach out to somebody who has a massive team of everybody do you think you're alone? You're going to hear the same freaking stories of what you're going through or what you feel with all the people that Ali works with. And so I would reach out. Now, I do want to let you guys know that Ali is a little bit different than most people. And I question him all the time. For example, he is the only person who consistently thinks that if he has an energy drink, he can dunk on a 10-foot rim. He's the only person that I get into a car with and tries to show me that how fast his car does 0 to 60 in traffic. And he thinks that triangle that separates exits and the freeway is a lane. It's called a median, Ali. You're not supposed to take a Lambo into the median at 100 miles per hour, especially when you have precious, beautiful cargo sitting in the house. So there are some things that I questioned about you, Ali. But as the year has passed, I've gotten to know you more and more. And we say, I love you, bro, all the time. But I want you to know that I love you from a space of respect, not just likability. We can have fun and you can play basketball and jump around and, be the person that you are. And that's all fine. That's all great. But my respect for you is on a different level. And I would encourage anybody who's listening to this, if you haven't met Ali or you haven't followed him or you haven't tuned into some of the things he's working on, he might be your tree right now. You know what I'm saying? And so if that's the case and you feel that that's the case, I don't know if you've watched this all the way through or if this is going to be a clip online, because now I got to do the social media thing with this and all this other stuff that I got to work on now. Right? But man, thank you so much for dropping the knowledge, dude.
Yeah.
And keeping it real at the same time. Now, are you going to change your license plate or is it going to stay?
I might get a second license plate that says D to Z King in addition to D to D King.
Yeah.
I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention, I feel the exact same way about you. The feeling of respect, camaraderie, love is definitely mutual. And if there's one thing, it looks like we have a couple minutes left, that I can leave your audience with. I was thinking about this right now as you were talking. And if I was to kind of coin it into something that could be memorable, just remember the ABCs, business and life. And I thought of a word that coincides with each letter. So that acronym ABC. A, the most important part of life is you have to take action. You've heard that old adage, knowledge is power. That is complete horseshit. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. Take action. The law of attraction only comes into fruition when it's backed up by action. Take action. If you don't, you've heard that old analogy that when the tide rises, so do all the ships, except the ones that are anchored down. When you're anchored down, that means that you are not taking action. Number one, always take action. And action is always better than inaction. B, this is an important one, okay? It's very underrated. Be yourself. Everybody else is taking. Be yourself. Because when you try to be somebody else, then you put on a facade, you get confused. Because you get confused when you're trying to imitate somebody else's character. When you're trying to act out somebody else that's not you. when you're always yourself, you never have to worry. Be yourself, everybody else is taken. And C, change. The only constant in life is change. The only thing that you can depend on in life is change, which kind of coincides with our original point at the beginning of the call, having the ability to adapt. Everything will change. So you need to get good at making decisions. By the way, indecision is still a decision because you've decided not to decide. And in the words of Abraham Lincoln, I make my decisions quickly and I change them rarely. Any decision is better than no decision. So take action, be yourself, and get comfortable with change, because that's going to be the only constant in life, and get comfortable making decisions. That's really all I got to end off the call.
I love it. Whether you do or you don't, everybody's going to know. Ali, thanks for your time, bro. I'm going to come visit you soon. You know, I'm dying to see you guys. It's been a while. Thanks for coming on. Send my love to your wife and the kids. And I will chat with you soon. Thank you so much for your time today.
Love you, brother. Thank you for your time.
You too, bud.
Talk to you later.